is echoing, so I'm not sure why. So I'm just going to start it. Wow, we have a bunch of people in here already. Good to see everybody. Deborah! Thanks for yeah, it's echoing. Let's see. I'm not late. Well, I got Terri with me. So let me bring her in. Whoa. Hey, Terri. How you doing?
Hello. Yeah, hi. Good to see you again.
Yeah, it's good to have you.
Oh, my, Stefan.
Yeah, everybody. Yeah. So let me, let's see. Stop screen. Oh, I know why it wasn't working now. My bad. Present.
Do you want to put me backstage and play your song?
No.
Okay.
No. So here's your channel, Terri. Tell us
That's
about your
my
channel.
channel. That's my channel. Wow, look at it.
It's beautiful.
It's basic pretty much. So, yeah, check me out, guys.
Yeah, I put it. It's at the top of the comment section. So, So what do you do on there?
Oh, I go live and talk to people. I do panel shows. I sometimes do readings. We kind of have a book club where I read to my audience. I don't know. Yeah, it's mainly just chilling, hanging out. Sometimes I upload videos of myself out and about from my life, but it's mostly a live channel. You can see I've got different books I'm reading, different topics, and then the panel shows where different people come on and hang out with me and talk. Yeah.
You read John Owen's The Mortification of Sin. Give us a little clip of what do you make of that?
The Mortification of Sin was, well, it was definitely a worthwhile read. I was pulled in by the title alone. I found it really helpful in terms of just kind of understanding our need to surrender as sinful creatures, and in terms of mortification, learning that we don't actually do anything of ourselves. It's all the Holy Spirit working through us. It was like the conversation we had around the book was really powerful. The chat was really engaged, and I just really, I loved, I guess it was a humbling read in a lot of ways. But yeah, we read The Art of the Deal.
That picture right there is outstanding. That one,
Which one? And the one in the middle?
That one, yeah.
Yeah.
That one is fantastic.
Oh yeah, when I voted, I did a vote stream. That was great. So sometimes I'll do things like that where it's just me, and I'll so yeah, you can see how I voted this year if you're curious, or at this past election. You can see my reasoning and going through the different ballot measures and people. And I live in Portland, so the people are interested in local Portland politics a lot of the time. So you get to hear a little bit about that in that stream.
Oh, there's the one I used for the other show.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cute.
Oh, yeah, we did the Ghost Theater before The Art of the Deal, so I actually read a novel to my audience.
Right there. That's funny. Oh, that's great. Okay, cool. And so, okay, let's bring in the next one. So yeah, subscribe to her channel immediately or you're not saved. Just kidding.
Dear.
Okay. I'll bring in the husband first. What's up, Matt? Let me switch the thingy.
Thanks. Ladies first,
Let's see. Put yours in here. So all three of their channels are in the up at the top. Hey Janet, hey Tim, hey Zenny. I saw some other people. I'm gonna shout out to any of your friends.
Yeah, but Janet, we figured out I used to do this on my phone and I had no way to read the comments. and because I don't really do this, and I kind of have a thing now, so I can see you, Janet. I love you. I see you.
Yeah, Janet's great, isn't she? She sent me this microphone. I haven't figured out how to set it up yet, but I'm going to soon here. Hopefully you can help me out. I was going to ask you. Okay, tell us about your channel.
Well,
You're doing
I
yeah,
what?
sorry.
No, U.S. You're
Oh,
spot
I was going to say one of the things you're working on is related to our subject tonight, which I'll mention in a minute, but after we do all the intros
Yeah,
here, but
yeah. Basically, I was not a nominational Christian for 40 years because don't put me in a box. I don't like being in a box. My dad, my whole side of my family, my dad's side's Catholic, and he became a spiritualist. And I basically grew up in that spiritualist perspective. My dad took me to my first psychic, I think when I was 13. Yeah, 13 was the first time I've been to a psychic with my dad. So those are kind of the topics I deal with. The fact that I was a non-denominational Christian for such a long time. I was a Catholic religious lay leader for the military, and I also talk about spiritualism as well. How I was able to balance that and handle that, and not let it affect my understanding of the scriptures.
cool. So I'll bring in Kaline now. Hey, let me put yours in there.
Hey guys.
You got a new channel, and
Yes.
my goodness, I have to say, fantastic, like
Thank you.
amazingly good. I honestly believe like you're definitely bringing some really good stuff. Let me put that in there. Sorry, let's see. I thought your arguments were very sound. They're well produced. The videos.
Thank you.
Great.
Yeah, I think I'm going in a direction of being like a Christian myth buster or something. It's kind of fun tackling some of those difficult Bible texts and trying to be objective and analyze and look at both sides of it. So it's kind of fun. I'm calling myself the magic behind Fisherman's Corner. I am his wife. I'm Kaline, everybody. Hi. I'm happy to be here.
Well, you know she's the magic because her quality of her content is outstanding, like you said, and I'm just like throwing up memes on my
Mhm.
shorts, and that's all.
Yeah, you like me or boys, you know.
Yeah.
That's how it goes. So wait, how did you guys meet? Do you want to do that really quick or what? We don't have to, but
Yeah.
just real quick.
I've told the story a few times. Basically, we met online. I was living in Virginia, and my dad was dying, and so I quit my job in Silicon Valley. I was a Silicon Valley chief technologist of innovation for Dell Technologies. Quit my job, moved to Virginia, and took care of my dad. But right when I did that, it was 2020. That's when the
Mhm.
whole world took a sabbatical. I was just like, I quit my job, then the whole world shut down. I was like, wow, thanks God. No, I'm just kidding. But I got a couple extra years. My dad was going to pass away in a couple of months, and I actually got a couple extra years with him. I think having a kid in the house, giving him some oomph, and that's when Kayleen and I met online. Her husband, so she has a late husband who passed away, and I ended up meeting her online, and we talked about our similar circumstances, if you will. And I came down to Georgia and helped some of her friends at her church, quite a few friends at her church as well. And I used to make the drive. And then eventually I fell in love with this widow, and I got stuck doing all the honey-do lists. So there you go.
Right on.
Very
That's awesome.
romantically said. Thank you.
Yeah.
You have no problems with his version.
it,
Does it work out for you?
it's working out very well.
That's great. Cool.
Yeah,
Okay,
he's
so
fun.
yeah, he's a pretty fun guy. I've like he came up. He was somebody who was like, thank God somebody's like coming in my channel like defending me. And so I'm like, this dude's awesome. I love this guy. I love people that come into the Adventists because like, they're always more like gung ho about it. So that's kind of my view. Okay, so Terri, tell us a little bit about your past, because we're talking about occultism and spiritualism and what Christianity is, and just give us like a whatever you want to say about it. Let's just talk about it. you don't mind.
Yes. For a number of years, I was a practicing occultist and was actually working as a psychic and medium. So I was doing readings for people of usually tarot readings, but I also would do spirit contact, contacting different kind of spirits, some of supposedly the dead, or even supposed angels or demons on behalf of people, or and that was I guess we had been talking about that, and he wanted to delve into it further. I don't really know what to say about it. I think actually in 2020 I had a big kind of wake up, just because of, I think, of my isolation, and I had to get down to the rock of my spirituality, and I really came to the realization that I'd been deceived, and that we are in a spiritual battle between good and evil, and that I had been working for the side of evil. And I basically returned to my Christian faith that I had as a child. So that was my, my kind of trajectory there. It took me a while to kind of separate myself from all of the practices, but that was the kind of journey inward. It took time of me like reading scripture and just growing closer to God to actually really understand fully how wicked what I was doing was. But we're there now, and I definitely am, repentant, and hopefully something I can say will, help either edify other people, with others they come across, or prevent someone from getting involved in the things I did.
Yeah, and you guys can jump in to help me ask better questions. But so maybe, I know somebody early on before the show started asked something about, like, let's see, I'll put that one up there. Let's just jump into that one just for fun. Deborah is a good friend of mine who sends me good morning messages all the time, cheers me up. Has anyone ever had an experience with a demon? Second part of the question, what do you think the UFOs are? Do you think they're real? And if so, do you think they are demonic? What do you think? Let's Terry, let's let you finish it up, but let's see. What do you think, Matt and Kaline, real quick?
Me being an aerospace engineer, obviously I have a very scientific way of thinking about it. However, knowing what my dad believed in and his fascination with UFOs and aliens, I don't think that's a coincidence. I do see spiritualism and the beliefs in UFOs to be coinciding with each other. So do I think it's demon manifestation? Yeah, I actually think that the devil and his angels are going to manifest in any way that the culture accepts. So since we have a highly technological culture, that's how he's going to relate to us. If we weren't highly technological, then he'll relate in other ways. So that's kind of how I see it.
I haven't had any direct experience with a demon, but I come from a culture. I'm from the Bahamas, from the islands, and so there's a lot of spiritualism, a lot of very comfortable acquaintance with dead loved ones, and which I believe are demons impersonating. So I'm familiar with that to that extent.
All right, Terry, what's up with you?
Well, I have had experience with demons. Like I said, I've contacted demons on behalf of other people. I haven't, in terms of practices I did, I never purposely conjured a demon, just because it seemed like too much work for me. And so when I was an occultist, it just wasn't like, everything I learned and read about it seemed like, okay, you're basically getting into a contract with someone who's going to be very demanding of you. And it didn't seem like a good idea. But I did contact several demons on behalf of a witch that was my client. And it was a very gross experience, to be honest. Like after that reading I did, I remember feeling filthy. And I felt just like so filthy. I don't know how to describe it. And then I like had this overwhelming urge to like rub peppermint oil into my skin. And so I did that because I had peppermint oil in my house. And then I told the client about it, after we talked about it later on. And she told me that they, in the book she was using, they suggested peppermint oil as an offering to the demons, which like shook me kind of. I was like, okay. So, I had that experience.
You found that out after the fact, after you had that.
Yeah, because I
felt the urge to do that. And you did.
It was overwhelming. I think they just knew, the demons knew I had peppermint oil and they wanted some. Like, honestly, that's what I think it was. They were like, oh, peppermint oil. Like, let's get her to do it. And I definitely have had, I think a lot of people are under demonic oppression. They don't realize it because we're not really trained in this, but they do manipulate human beings through our thoughts and feelings. So a lot of people have had experience with demons. If you have intrusive thoughts, those could be demonic in nature. If you ever like really, there's a practice that I was turned on to called the silent prayer, where you just sit. And, it's basically you're sitting and praying to God, but you're not saying anything. You're just watching, your thoughts, let them pass, and just, try to stay in the present moment. And you'll be amazed how many of your thoughts are not your own. And you'll hear the voices of the demons. They will come very loud. That was an incredible practice for me in terms of figuring out how prevalent they are. But yeah, in terms of UFOs, I don't believe they're aliens. I've never believed they were aliens, I would say. I've always known that they were interdimensional beings of some kind. So I think very likely to be demonic in nature, especially when you look at the experiences people say they have with them, a lot of people are left very terrified and frightened. I mean, that's not, it's not an experience that would be from anything else then. So, yeah, that's my response.
I pretty much agree with what you guys are saying. I mean, I think I'm skeptical of UFO videos and stuff like that, but some of that stuff is probably legit stuff happening, even if, it just seems like how they would relate, like Matt said, relate to us in our present tech, our present culture. Just seems obvious, like in the 1800s.
I have no doubt as well. It would say that the governments of our countries, in the world have technology that we're not aware of as well. So that could be some of it.
Right. So tell us some other stuff that happened while you were in that world or whatever. We could chat about that. I mean, you told me, I talked to you last night and you said a couple of interesting things.
Well, you had asked me about, I described when doing medium type of readings, how the atmosphere would change in the room when I would do them. And I would often feel like a wind that was similar to the astral wind that I've felt times when I astrally projected. It was just like a change in the atmosphere. And I think it's because of what you're doing is kind of opening up a portal to the different dimensions that, generally we don't or shouldn't have access to. And then you're getting all of this, psychic information coming through. I've also had those experiences, though, of like atmosphere shifts when I've been in places that are deeply haunted. I've always been sensitive to that. So I was in a home once that was extremely haunted, and when a bunch of spirits came through the house, like I had the same kind of feel, like there was a rush of the same sort of change in the atmosphere, this kind of wind. And then I in my mind's eye, I started seeing all these like spirits come through. That wasn't really a medium experience, though. I just happened to be there. So I wasn't, doing any work for the people, but I guess I did help them a bit. The people who own that house kind of get an understanding of what was going on in their home better. But a lot of things like that. But I would say it was a really consuming time. I was always very drained by it. It's not a good thing to be doing to your body. In fact, in many cultures, the way mediumship is kind of treated in our culture is really ridiculous, but it takes a toll on you physically. It wears you out, it drains you. And there was no amount of money that ever made it like worthwhile, I would say. Like I just did it because it was, another source of income really. And it was a, talent I had. But I don't know. I mean, there were also experiences I had. I know that I had people who I was doing readings for that, they were led deeper into hell by like some of the advice they were getting, I don't know. There's so many things I could get into. I don't know what to say really. The other thing about it too was the overconsumption of it. Like one thing about the new age kind of spirituality that I think is really interesting is how much it's based on consumerism. And once you get into most tarot readers I know, I should say, have like hundreds of decks of tarot cards, which is completely unnecessary. But there's an addictive aspect of this kind of practice, which is another reason why I think when we talked about this before, I mentioned that it's described as a work of the flesh. It's addictive because it never actually satisfies any of your spiritual needs. It's kind of like a drug. I really think of it the same way because people get addicted to it. A lot of people are addicted to psychic readings. And then also people are addicted to being into these type of like divination practices. So you start learning how to do one, and then you start doing another, and then you start buying all these different things, and then you start taking different courses, and you're spending like all of these hundreds and thousands of dollars on something that's really like not feeding your soul, but it's under the guise of spirituality. It's really, really farcical.
Interesting. Well, let's talk about astral projection. I know Matt, I've talked to you and Terry about that, so I'm curious I'd like to hear you guys see if you think about it similarly or whatever. I see your mess. I'll be right. I'll be within earshot, but I'll be right here.
You gotta let the cat out. Go ahead. What?
I said, well, do you want to go, Matt? Because I have been talking. What do you think about astral projection?
Well, there's a couple. I mean, there's many different ways to think about it, right? Number one is if aliens, UFOs, or whatever interdimensional beings, then they have access to the universe. They have the means to essentially astral project to other locations and feed that information. So if anybody's astral projecting somewhere, it's very relevant that it could work. And so if you get a taste of it working, then you want more of it. And so I think it's just another means of accessing an ability that we're not called to access, right? We're trying to fulfill ourselves in things that does not belong to us. And astral projection is one of those where I can connect to somebody. I can see what somebody's doing at another location, right? But it's not really me. I get the perception as me. Maybe somebody can say they felt my presence there. I don't think they're feeling my presence. They're probably feeling a familiar spirit of mine, right? Like a spirit, a demon in which they're familiar with the way I behave, the way I act, right? So when I think of astral projection, I do think there's some science behind it too, right? Like we talk about quantum tunneling, the ability to detach from distance if there's no time, right? There's certain ways to explain it scientifically, but when it comes to what is actually being claimed, it's this secret knowledge, right? It's back to that Gnosticism again. Like I have this ability to know something almost omniscient, almost omnipotent, right? It's like it's getting a touch of what it means to be God, omnipresent. And so I think that's why it's so addictive, because it's almost godlike. But I mean, that's how I see it.
Well, definitely one of the biggest things in the occult is the idea of being your own God. People definitely, I definitely had that mindset. Like a lot of people see themselves as God and that they're creating their whole reality, which is interesting. And
you don't
it's
mind,
not from the devil.
yeah, if you don't mind, what would you say? Like for me, when you say that people think that they're God, that is the concept of the I am that I am, right? That's the self deification. Is that the way you understand it? Like the oneness of the universe, I am that I am. Have you heard that?
Yes, I understand that. It's really common, especially amongst people that are getting into like manifestation work. So I know in The Secret, they use that or they misuse that kind of.
Yeah.
And there are some principles to some of their techniques, obviously. I mean, there is power in positive thinking. And just, who you are as a person tends to reflect in your reality around you, the kind of spirit you hold. If you're an angry person, you'll tend to encounter, you'll have an angry life. You'll have situations that make you angry. If you're more light in your spirit, you'll tend to have an easier time of things. But that's just how you are dealing with the reality. It's not as though you're creating reality. It's just how you're perceiving and dealing with it. So a lot of people, because they, I don't know, they kind of start to change their mode of thinking to be more positive. For a while, that kind of works. But ultimately, they start to really double down on these beliefs, and it can be really destructive, because anytime something goes wrong, they start to, blame themselves. They start to try to interrogate themselves, thinking that it's their own negativity that's causing just, normal life experiences. So it's the biggest deception, and it's what Satan really wants people to do. I mean, even amongst the satanic world, most of them don't actively worship Satan. They worship themselves. And that's what the sin of pride is, what Satan wants to instill in people, because with pride, you utterly reject God's morality. So that's usually, I would say, that sin is where most of this stuff stems from in the first place. Yeah, there's so many outgrowths of how pride can manifest, but it's when you get down to the root of where all these, how people go down these paths, that's, I would say, one of the biggest. We were talking about astral projection, though. I feel like
no, but that's, I think that's a, no, that's a good way to put it, because you are feeding the ego. Like, imagine if I think, this is one of the things that convinced me, actually, of the idea of like how Seventh-day Adventists see the spirit. Like, we have no business being outside of the experience that God has physically put us into. Like God created us the way we are to perceive the world like this through His Holy Spirit. We are guided by His Spirit. But see, like, astral projection is this: I have my own spirit, and I can send my own spirit where I'm going to project it to. It's like, no. If God wants you to know something, the Holy Spirit will move you to that truth. It flips the script, and so that's why it's like, we got no business thinking we have a separate spirit going places. God fully intended that our soul is one, and so then we see this in the idea, like what you're describing, spiritualism. We see it in technology too. Look what we're doing right now. This is a technological form of astral projection. And then in the future, we will have that capability that I will be able to plug in and virtually present myself somewhere and even possess electronics. I can control electronics as if I'm there, seeing through somebody else's eyes. I know my cat is astral projecting up the stairs. but the point being is like, I think this desire to have godlike powers is trying to fulfill some void, some self-centered void, instead of just having trust in God, that God's got it covered out there. I don't need to be out there, minding somebody else's business.
I just thought, as you were talking about that, I guess it came to me that what we're doing when we seek out this kind of knowledge is we're trying to eat from the tree of knowledge, which is we're corrupting ourselves because we're seeking knowledge. Yeah, that we think will make us godlike. It's like all right there. It's all right there, but in our face. But yet the devil is so good at twisting and blinding us to what is right. I will say, like, with astral projection, I think really I only really consciously did it once, I would say, where I was like, yeah, I'm going to do this thing and set about making it happen. It's happened a couple of other times, but that was just, I recognized where I was because I've been there before in the astral plane.
And what was the goal? What were you wanting to accomplish?
Well, I just wanted to do it, really.
Okay.
It was more like, oh, I've done all this other stuff. I want to see what it's like. I've read about it. It was something that I'd known about for a long time, but never really achieved or had happened. So it was something that I guess I just wanted to experience. I didn't have any particular goal. And definitely, when I was there, I was misbehaving. Like, I told Jamie a little bit about this, but I was just in my yard basically at one point, and I started making like energy balls with my hands, like trying to make these really big balls of energy. And I was looking at them and watching them and kind of like laughing. And there was this old woman in the astral plane that grabbed me and like took me to time out. Basically, she put me in this like place that was somewhat like a, I don't know, a jumble sale thrift shop type of place. And she was like, yeah, you don't need to be acted like that. So, and you know, the fact is, like, I didn't know what I was doing. I had like, I could have gotten in serious trouble out there, you know, like you can come across anything in the astral plane, and people often do. So I don't know who that was that grabbed me, but I always think, you know, I'm always hopeful that it was some kind of good thing that happened. But I did note when you move around there, it's all by your thoughts in the astral plane. You don't move your body like you do here. I mean, you can to a certain degree, but if you want to travel around, it's by thought.
Is there a certain like level of paralysis then that you're in?
Oh yeah, no, I was definitely in paralysis. And when I came back to my body, I was in paralysis for a couple minutes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. It wasn't Trump. Definitely wasn't Trump. It was an old lady.
That's it. Well, I've heard that that's a common thing people see when they're in paralysis. That's like one of
Donald
the
Trump?
no archetypes of like an old woman.
Oh,
Usually in a scary sense, though, like a bad sense.
like a hag.
You know, it's kind of an interesting question, and I want to ask the fisherman here. Like, obviously, as Adventists, we think all that's forbidden, so like there is no good zone, pretty much, of like spiritual things like that. Not that we don't believe in like good angels, right? So, but I mean, it's almost like could God send a good angel if you were astral projecting with demons or whatever? Like, is that
No.
possible? You guys think of that? I never even thought about that. This never even crossed my mind. So I'm just curious your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think that's a big no-no. I personally think God's gonna reach us in the realm that He created us in. That's my opinion. So like as soon as Terry was like, "Hey, I've been in a house that was haunted. You know, I've dealt with demons." You know, Kaline knows. I'm like, "Yeah, let's do this," because you know I have confidence in the power of Christ. But that's still in the realm that I live. Like I'm not gonna go Ouija board myself on Mars to then have a conversation with a supposed good angel because the means in which I'm doing it is wrong. But if I'm living in the realm of which God has created me, I that's where I expect angels to come to me down the ladder, Jacob's ladder, to have that interaction, and then we should be able to tell. In fact, I'll share a little story with you if you don't mind to give you an example. One of the things that made me move to the East Coast was I was in an Uber car. So a friend of mine got a divorce and she needed help in South Carolina. So before I moved out to take care of my dad, I actually came out here and helped her as well for her house, getting the divorce, all that stuff. And when I was in the Uber car, the guy he was talking to me about stuff, and then all of a sudden he goes, "Oh, your middle name or I'm sorry, your name is Matt." And I was like, "Yeah, my name's Matt." He goes, "Oh, I'm just saying that because that's my name." I was like, "Oh, well, that's really my middle name." And he goes, "Oh, well, that's my middle name too." I was like, "Really?" And he goes, "Yeah, my name's Raymond Matthew." And I was like, "Wait, what?" So all of a sudden, this guy, like, trust me, man, my name is really rare. This guy is talking to me, and then all of it, like, something clicked. We had the same name. That was weird in the middle of nowhere while I was out somewhere helping somebody. I was doing the right thing, right? I went out of my way to do the right thing, to love thy neighbor, not myself, kind of thing, right? So I was in the right place, in the right heart, in the right mindset, if you will. And then all of a sudden, when that happened, I said to him, I said, "Look, I don't know, I don't know what you have to tell me, but God, I really think God is giving me this moment. So whatever is on your mind, please tell me." This is an Uber driver driving me to my destination. And he says to me, "What I don't know if this matters. But to me, what impresses upon me on my heart is always put love over money. Well, I mean, I knew that. I mean, that's literally what I've been doing. So in my head, I was like no duh. Like in my head, I was like no duh. Clearly, that's been my life philosophy. No duh kind of thing, right? But here's the twist. I'd recognize that I think that moment, an angel of the Lord, if you will, was speaking. Like that moment, I can tell whether he's literally human or not. I don't. That's not the point. Something was so unique about the experience, and I've taken hundreds of Uber car drives. Right? I mean, I used to live in San Francisco, the heart of Uber, but the way that came together in that normal circumstance was magnitudes greater than any other normal circumstance I was having. And then he told me something that was so obvious to me. I've always preferred love over money kind of thing, right? This is a core tenet of Christianity. You can't you can't serve both masters. It's either love or money, right? God or money. And so when he told me this, I was reflecting like why is God telling me this, right? And I told her, I was like, thank you so very much. I mean, I don't know. That that was very impactful to me. I appreciate it. And right before I was about to leave out of the car, he hands me this little plastic bag. And the little plastic bag had some candy, a business card, and a cross, a little tiny cheap nickel cross. He was a Christian missionary that Ubers everywhere, and we didn't talk about anything Christian. Nothing Christian came out of his mouth, but somehow that registered to me, and he gave me the message I needed to hear. And I kid you not, on the second day, Kaline and I were talking on the phone ever. She played a song to her dad. She let me hear a song that she just recorded to her dad, and it's I'd rather have Jesus than silver or gold. The whole premise of the song is having Christ love, God is love, more than money. And so on the second day of knowing Kayleen, she didn't know this. I was in love. I was set. I was done. I already knew, like, now I know why. Now I know why. And so like when you ask me that, no, you're if you're going and astral projecting, yeah, maybe he's going to say maybe yes, there's in the realm of possibility. God, of course, can do that, but you're in the place that is wrong. So unless that angel is saying what you're doing in astral projection is wrong, get yourself out of there, because you are doing something wrong, then I don't think it's an angel of the Lord. Like if it's going to be an angel sending you a message while you're doing something wrong, it should be a convicting message. I mean, that's how I see it.
Yeah. Well, I don't think it was an angel at all.
What do you mean?
I think it was another human. I think it was another person who was a more experienced astral projector who noticed me.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah,
like I think it was like an older like witch or something.
I didn't know if you were referring to my story or yours. I was like, wait a minute.
Like I don't think that was one of God's angels. I think it was. I got the feeling it was a human.
Yeah. But you know what I mean by an angel, though, right?
I've had angelic experiences before, actually, as well. Which, yeah, I'm pretty sure that was a human being.
Yeah. But I guess my question for you then is, do you see an angelic experience simply by the anatomy of the person? Like, meaning like it is an angel like a human? Or can a human be an angel, meaning a messenger? He's bringing or she's bringing a message from the Lord. So not literally an angel, but a human bringing a message from the Lord. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, they had human bodies. I don't know if they were human or not.
Yeah.
I don't think they were because of just their nature.
The term angel, obviously, in the Bible can be used to just mean messenger, but it can also mean sort of a divine being.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of asking.
Or a being, a spiritual being, I guess. I don't know.
I do believe angels do manifest in human form, though, and oftentimes we run into them without. If you don't have the eyes to see, you won't know. But there's certain characteristics about them that are just, they're not like us. They don't live the way we do. It's kind of hard to describe. I mean, they might eat, or do things like that. I don't know how to describe it, but
That's all biblical.
yeah, what they do and how they behave is very different. They're not, they don't, I don't know. They're not like us. I don't know how to describe them but I know them when I see them. At least I think I do, at least the times I've known.
So, Jamie, are you asking if God would send an angel like to help someone who's in this kind of realm, or what's the context?
Yeah, I never thought about it. Like if you're in some, like if you like you're say you're abducted by a UFO, people say if
Right.
you call on Christ, it'll end the thing, right? But what if and then I was thinking, well, what does it even mean to be in that situation? Whether they're like, if you were there and then the person's just laying in their bed, but they're like in a trance. Because, and then like if you're in that realm and it's a demonic attack, is it possible that God could send an actual like holy angel to save you from that? I've never heard that. And I thought, well, I don't see why that's not. It just like I've never thought that way because of the way I think of as an Adventist, but it's like that seems totally possible, like metaphysically possible anyway. I don't know. That's the idea.
And I think this is why the Bible does strongly encourage us not to go to these enchanted grounds. But I keep thinking about the demoniac in the book of Mark, I think. He was trapped and Jesus met him where he was and rescued him. I don't think he had the ability to get out of that unless he had help from the divine. And Jesus specifically made a trip there to rescue. That's my thought.
Word. Well,
So what you're saying is you believe in second chance theology, and when we all go to hell, he will come down. I'm
No.
sorry, I couldn't resist.
Elite. No, I don't think so. All right, Terry, keep going. Tell us some more stuff.
About what?
Just anything.
I don't know. I feel like I've said kind of what I knew what to say. Were there any questions in the chat that came up?
Yeah, there was a wait. Shannon had one and it's totally slipping my mind. Do you remember what you said, Shannon? She put Q by it. If you have a question,
Yeah,
if you
throw it
could
in
put
there.
a Q.
Well,
Was
I
that-
had one for Terry. So you
Great.
talked about having a talent for this. How did you, or when did you know you had a talent, and how did that exhibit itself? What does that talent look like?
Good question. I like this question.
Well, I've had kind of supernatural experiences since I was really small, and been able to kind of discern spirits and just I don't know, like it just seems like been a part of my life, and I guess when it all kind of came together and I started, I guess, formulating my career as a medium, it just all kind of clicked together. I really picked up reading or divining very quickly. It was just a couple of months before I was really a pro at it. And I don't know. I mean, a talent for, I guess that's what I would say, because I was able to, I also have just, I think, natural people skills and maybe a better ability to memorize, that kind of thing. So all of those things kind of blend together, where maybe I would be better at it than some other people. Okay, I'm thinking about talent for it. That is a good question. Um,
You definitely struck me. I thought of the word empathic. She just has that sort of, and I don't mean to use that in any kind of weird way. Just
no,
I see
I
that.
mean, I do. Yeah, my mother on my mother's side, they do have a lot of empaths. My mother is one. My little brother is one. My uncle is one. At least in this generation, there's my great aunt was a psychic reader as well, empath, and she read playing cards, but she was illiterate. But she didn't charge money for her readings. She did them as like, I don't know. She just did them as a service to people, or she would exchange gifts for people, or they would do favors for her readings, but she wouldn't take money for them. So I know I have a long line of that. I don't know if it's just in the blood and that it came that way. My father also kind of encouraged my psychic development and wanted me to be. I think he wanted me to kind of go into that anyway. So he, I think he noticed early on that I had kind of that proclivity, and he also had it on his line as well. Although on my father's line, there's more like I don't know, animal whisperers is what they're called. People who tame wild animals or who could speak to animals, or just had like clairsentience, like just would know things without knowing why. Um, so yeah, I think in some ways, I don't know. I think the I think the darkness was trying to get me a long time.
I
You
was
know?
gonna say it seems a little like out of bounds for the demonic to interact with small children, but maybe it's just something because you started to talk about family, and this could be generational. Because I have a best friend from back home who had interactions with things like floating in the room and stuff when she was a kid,
Oh yeah.
but it's because for generations, grandparents, great grandparents, they had interactions with spiritualism.
I think so. I mean, I remember being very small, and I used to see dead people, like, um, like, or decaying spirits would. When I would go to bed at night, they would start at the end of the room, and they would like walk up to my bed and then just disappear, like evaporate, kind of like a mist. And it was creepy. It was creepy. Like,
Yeah.
and so I think, yeah, and then I became a medium that was like contacting the dead, like as an adult. It is kind of interesting how that
Yeah.
happened.
Okay, I
So,
got some
yeah. Oh, okay.
questions here. Thank you, Brother Timothy, for your super chat. Terry, have you ever experienced prolific dreams? It's a question somebody had.
Oh, prophetic?
Or yeah, I guess he means prophetic. Yeah.
Yes, I've had prophetic dreams. I've had dreams that have come true, or I've had visions and dreams that told me things I needed to do. I've also had just visions. I would say more of the prophetic stuff I've had has come in visions than dreams, though. But I definitely do or have had dreams that were giving me a message.
That is a huge connect.
Yeah, I'm pretty impressed.
Yeah, that is quite. I mean, that is a specimen there. I say so myself.
Yeah, absolute unit.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know what to think about that as such. I mean, I don't know if that's unique to me or if it's normal for people. I think people get messages in their dreams all the time that, because I did actually do dream interpretation for people as well, for friends and the like, as well. Just people will tell me about their dreams and I'll help them sort them out, because a lot of people just don't know how to read dream imagery, or they'll have an intense dream they don't know how to really process. But if you know kind of the language of symbolism, it's pretty easy to discern what's happening. So, yeah.
Did the spirits, or I don't know, were you told things about people that you wouldn't otherwise know, and it kind of built up your credibility?
Yes. Like when I was doing readings for people, yes.
Okay.
But I was always hesitant to give too much information. You know what I mean? There were times like when I would do a reading for someone, I was reading for a woman once and I could tell that her husband was having an affair, but I chose not to tell her because that's not why she came to me. And I felt like if I didn't want to be responsible for opening that can of worms, but I could, it was very clear, like coming through, I was getting that message very strongly, but I'm like, she didn't come to me for this. This is not what she's asking me about. It would be irresponsible for me to give her that kind of information, which will implode her world. Like, so I got a lot of information that I didn't necessarily share with people. Like I did have my own, I guess, bizarre code of ethics about it. Like I didn't want to dazzle people or impress people. Like I really just wanted to try to assist them with whatever they were coming to me with. But I did get stuff like that coming through, like very personal stuff, or people often, the number one reason that people come to a psychic reader, is usually for relationship advice. So you get all kinds of detail coming through, and even like looking at the cards, a lot of it wasn't in the cards. It just, I knew. I would get all of this information about people. Sometimes I'd be able to describe them. Or I'd ask questions. I'm like, does this person wear glasses? Like, is this, person dark haired? Like things like that, little details that wouldn't necessarily be apparent. Yeah, I mean, you do get stuff coming through, and that's the thing, like with the cards or like any form of divination, those are just like a tool of opening up you. It's like the cards are like there for reference, but you're really the thing that's being operated on, the person doing the reading.
Did you also find the spirits to be manipulative? And I guess I'm thinking more when you were exiting. Did they try to manipulate you to stay in that kind of thing?
Let me think. Spirits a bit. I would say the spirits kind of came through other people, though. Like it wasn't working on me directly. They were like influencing other people. Like when I decided that I was going to stop doing readings, I did tell some people, and I had one woman like react like, "Oh, you can't do that. This is a source of income for you. Like you're going to regret this," that kind of thing. That woman didn't know me that well, and I was like, yeah, but I'm done. It was in my soul. I was done. And I wasn't alone there. I had another friend there with me, and she was like, I can hear it. You're done. She kind of backed me up. Then I had, obviously my clients, a lot of them were coming to me, like these people who had gotten readings from me for years, and they felt very, like that they really were invested in the work that we'd been doing together in their minds. And of course they'd invested money, and they'd also felt like the advice I gave them was like always solid and helpful. And maybe in some ways it was. I do think that they will give accurate information, but like ultimately the goal is to deceive you. You know what I mean? It's like You may get it and accurate information, but ultimately the goal is to trap you in something. And I noticed that with some people, like they were getting set up by these readings. Um,
I have a personal story on that, if you don't mind.
of course.
Um, it was it was just before I moved from California to take care of my dad. My ex-girlfriend, who was totally into tarot readings, this whole thing that I was kind of explaining to you before. I actually brought her to a psychic. This is what she's comfortable with, blah blah blah. Obviously, I'm familiar with it because of my dad. And I bring her to a psychic, and it turns out it was a random psychic, just random. And it turns out it was right next door to her wedding dress alteration, whatever. Because she got married, and it lasted like 6 months. It lasted 6 months until she started talking to a person who does psychic readings. Then she started talking to him on email and got caught by her new husband, and they got a divorce right away. So it totally ruined her marriage and it broke her down. But then she got stuck on this whole. She still got sucked into it. The thing that destroyed her marriage, she got stuck into it. But anyways, so it turns out the psychic reading place was right next. It was when I say next door, it's literally next door. It was the wedding thing, this is San Mateo in Northern California. So we're talking random. There's dozens of these places. I still can't believe that happened. So, anyways, I bring her in there, and the first thing that happens when I walk in, this short, older Indian lady, right? So now we're dealing with chakras, that whole thing, that realm of spiritualism. I walk in, and I kid you not, the lady goes like this weird, like her eyes opened up, whatever. I noticed it, but but I didn't say anything. I let it go, right? So I go and I've had the conversation. I bring her in and I tell her what's going on. I'm like, look, um, I respect my girlfriend at the time, um, but I didn't. I don't think it's going to work out. So it's like almost a way for me to break up, but not like you said in the beginning. It's about relationships, and she goes through her readings and blah blah blah. Conversation, and at the very end, she said, "Look, Matt, did you notice my reaction to you when you walked in?" I said, "Yeah, I did. I mean, I thought maybe I smelled bad or something, because I always got to be funny. I can't take things seriously, right? I'm like, I thought maybe I smelled bad or something." She goes, "No, no, no. I have never experienced that much power come into my presence." That's what she said. Okay, I don't know what that means, but all right. Then she proceeds to say this. I I'm telling you, do not travel. She has no idea what I'm planning on doing. The whole reason was I was going to leave and travel to go take care of my dad in Virginia. So I was on the West Coast in San Mateo, California, or close to San Mateo, but south of San Francisco. And then you're local when you get technical. But anyways, to live in Virginia Beach, to move across the country, Virginia Beach. Virginia Beach. We're talking the beach. The reason why that matters is she goes, don't travel, especially don't go near water. Don't go anywhere near water. So you stay put and you don't go anywhere near water. And in my head, I'm just like, first of all, I'm a United States Marine. There's nothing like I'm arrogant and I'm a punk. You can't tell me, in my head. Second of all, I have the power of the Lord with me. What do you mean? I'm not gonna be scared. But she was trying to scare me from moving. But she doesn't know. She doesn't know what I was doing. She had no idea that I was already planning to move across the country and live in Virginia Beach by the water to take care of my dad. Now, if I took her advice, I would never have moved to Virginia. I would never have ended up meeting my wife. I would never, like, all these things that came together, I would never have actually have met the angel, if you will, or someone who seemed to have a message for me in South Carolina, because that's the first place I went over. So when you say that, I mean, that resonates home, because now we're talking 3-4 years later. It was 2025, so we're talking 5. It's been 5 years. Jeez, Kaylin, 5 years. What the? 5 years later, I can look back and be like, that she was trying to keep me. She was trying to stop me. She was trying to trap me from coming here and fulfilling what I think God has put in my life. Like, it was a trap. Like, she had me thinking, like, like, she, as soon as I walked in, she had this weird reaction. Very, like, it was like, it wasn't negative, but it was clearly out. Like, she had a physical reaction to stand back. And then an hour and a half later, she concludes to tell me why she reacted that way, and then says, you can't go across the country, travel anywhere far, anywhere near water." Like, geez, man. And if I fell for that, I would have been scared and terrified, trapped living in San Francisco. So yeah, like that, what you just said resonates home to me more than, that I could describe. Like, there's an emotional feeling there that I can only imagine how many other people are experiencing on a daily basis when they're being trapped like that.
And see, the evil spirits, they knew that where you were going was near water, and it's so manipulative and it's a little flattering. They try to flatter you as well to trap you.
Yeah, I definitely felt flattered.
To say
And that,
so far, I want to just say to the audience that thank you so much for joining. This is the largest audience I've ever had. I would thank you all for showing up. I know Terry's probably got more on her channel going, which is great. The comment of the night so far, and it's I'm lighthearted, so don't get offended, people. But I think if I understood it, the object, the lesson of the story is never listen to a rib. I think that was a diss on the females there, maybe. I thought that was funny. I thought that was cute.
Yeah, never, ever, 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 but never tell your problems to a woman. I want to react to Yoda. He said that I pulled the same trick sometimes. I don't think I ever flattered anyone like that. Like, honestly, if somebody said that to me, I would be very suspicious. Like, I don't know. When I was first getting into, I guess, reading for people, I've read a lot about charlatans or tricksters that try to con people, and like things that they use, ways of, telling if your reader is legitimate or not, basically. And I was like, okay, well, what do these people do? And one of the big thing is that they use is flattery. Like, they'll tell you have powers, or something special about you. They'll try to, manipulate your desire to be special, which, most people have. Or, they'll, try to manipulate you by instilling fear, saying you have a curse on you or something like that, or even you have some need to worry, or you need to buy more. Basically, it's a trap to get you to spend more money a lot of the time. And a lot of like I said, with people that are involved in occult practices, they're very rarely only involved in one thing. Like, for me, I was very eclectic. I was doing all kinds of things. So most readers are as well. You may be going for a tarot reading, but this person is probably involved in all kinds of occult practices that you don't know about. And a lot of them are doing like witchcraft on the side as well. I mean, most readers I knew were witches, and they did spell work. They sold many different types of services like that for people. So they're out there doing all kinds of things that you probably don't want to get involved in.
If I could share a short personal story as well. My uncle, he just passed away a couple weeks ago. He died, I believe, in his deception, and it wasn't he wasn't actively trying to be in the spiritualism realm, but he wanted to have such a close walk with God that he desired to speak to God, like literally. And he would go out to the beach for hours and just try to get God to talk to him. And eventually something did begin talking to him, and it flattered him. It made him feel special. It started to tell him things about people in the community that he wouldn't know. And eventually, that same voice began to tell him to do things that weren't biblical. And when he tried to correct the voice on those elements, then that spirit being started to, I would say, play the silent treatment game. If you don't do what I tell you to do, I'm not going to treat you special anymore. You're not going to be a special human on the earth with special relationships with the spirit world. So it's so interesting that on both sides they play the same game. Very
And
interesting.
yeah, I think an important part you left out is maybe I'm wrong. He was an elder, right? Wasn't he like an elder in the church or?
Yeah, so he actually went to college, studied theology to be a pastor. He was an elder in the church, and growing up, he was that uncle that, encouraged us kids go to prayer meeting, and he was sincere, but he replaced the scriptures with this voice. He didn't even feel the need anymore to study the Bible, because why read God's word when you can just hear it directly? And that's a deception. And I think that's why we have those examples of Christ answering the angel of light with "it is written," because that's the only the guardian, the rule of faith to guard us from these things.
And if you don't mind me adding or asking on that, when you did, I'm assuming you and I didn't really talk about this. This is new to me too, guys, everybody, on this part. When you did ask him or confront him, I'm assuming your mom, I'm assuming you saying that about the scriptures. Somebody confronted him with the scriptures. And my question to you is, if that happened, what was his response? Was it like, well, I have an exception because God made me special or something, or what was it?
So he anticipated a lot of our scriptures, and every once in a while we would catch him, and he would pause, and then he would come back later with some profound, well, clever twisting that really ultimately didn't make sense, but it settled his mind. And he actually believed that he was in a spiritual test. So we could show him from scripture, because the voice eventually told him to do things like commit adultery and things like that. And it's like, yeah, but so you are allowed to sin and even Jesus can't? Like, you have more privileges than than Christ himself. Um, no,
Yeah,
I'm
when
in a
when the
special.
spirit says you can cheat on your spouse, that's a sign right there. I'll tell you right now.
No, he believed he was in a special test. He actually said that if the Bible was being written in this time, his story would be in the Bible. And this is it's very sad. He was very deceived, but he was also very flattered. So, and I only tell this story because I'm listening to Terry's what she's describing, and I'm thinking, wow, like it's the same game, and they play it on both sides, and it's going at our ego, that self wanting to be like God, and that's the deception, and I think that's the danger.
Wow, that sounds like stuff Terry you were saying to me. I heard. Never mind.
Well, yeah, I'm that story is very like, I don't know, it just hit me in the heart. God's voice is a voiceless voice, you know. He doesn't need to speak to us that way. Um, I do think I've heard the voice of God once in my life. I don't expect to hear it again. If I do, it'll be amazing, but I really don't.
Do
He's
you
not going to be chatting with us all day telling us this and that. Like, we're supposed to be seeking him, you know, like, and we're supposed to be here living our lives. Like, it's so, like, why do we crave or want more than like what he's already given us? He's given us so much and we don't even appreciate it. You know, if we could just be in the moment and be in the present where he is, like, we'd see him, you know? Oh, my heart, yeah, that story, it just, my heart is like very hit by that.
Yeah, and my mom and her sisters, it's about 10 of them. Well, it was 10. This had been going on for about 20 years. They've been battling. I think my mom tried every scripture in the Bible she could think of. It is a sad story, but it is a warning to all of us.
I mean, yeah, it just, there's so many signs too that they give that they don't mean you well too. That's the other thing. But like, this spirit saying it would leave him, God doesn't leave us or forsake us. No, that's, you know, God doesn't lead us into temptation or lust or sin.
You know, that's actually my favorite. That's actually my favorite biblical, you know, hymn. It's ready. Never gonna give you up. Never gonna let you down. Never gonna run it. I'm sorry. Isn't that a hymn? Pretty sure it's a hymn.
Might as well be, right? It's,
Keep going.
I don't know, yeah, it's amazing. But, and this was a man who should have known better too. Anybody can be deceived. Like, don't, that's the other thing I would say about this. Like, you know, be careful who you listen to, who you follow, who you trust. You know, anybody can be deceived. Your walk with the Lord is your own.
Well, Terri, tell
Bibby.
what was that? Sorry.
Oh, I was saying good night to Lord Bibby, who says it's bedtime for him.
So tell us, keep going in your story. If you were, tell us how you became a Jesus freak or whatever.
Right. Well, I became a Christian as a child. Like, I remember the presence of, I don't know what I thought. I felt the presence of God when I was really small. Like, I felt this loving figure there that I didn't know how to describe, that was with me and just holding me. And like, I did have a kind of, I guess my early childhood was pretty painful because of my parents' separation. So I just felt this love and presence with me that sustained me. My father, though, he had custody of me and he was not a Christian. And unfortunately, he never became one to my knowledge. But he was convinced by my uncle, who is a Christian, to have me attend church when I was small. I think I was 4 the first time I was taken to a church for some kind of event. And that was when things kind of clicked for me and made sense, like, oh, that's who this is. Right. It kind of put it in a bigger context, like, okay, this spirit that I feel, this presence is like, there's more like a Brussels sprout. Okay. Okay. I like Brussels sprouts, so thank you. But yeah, I didn't go to church regularly until I was a bit older. I think I was 7 when I befriended Christian girl who invited me to church, and that's when I started attending regularly. I got saved and baptized. I became very passionate about it. But yeah, there was some fallout with the church. The church that I was attending, in retrospect, with my adult eyes, is not one I would attend now. There was a lot of, I don't know, it was an evangelical kind of non-denominational free-for-all mess. So not a lot of structure, not a lot of, there was all kinds of things going on that were just, not solid. But then after that, I ended up leaving that church. I ended up attending occasionally in my neighborhood a Episcopal church, since that was the closest one. But again, my father was not a Christian, so it did make it kind of difficult for me to be active in a church on my own. And I basically stepped away from my faith probably around the age of 13 or so. And I did get into, at that time, witchcraft to a certain degree, but I gave that up within a couple of years. It was just kind of like a phase I had until I became an adult and went full blown into it. I didn't get into how I got into the occult as an adult, though. I guess I could tell that or talk about that.
Please.
So I was living in a house that was very haunted. I don't know how, there's so many experiences I had in the house, but for example, Nunya Biz asked, how do you leave a church you're baptized into? So I guess in my faith understanding and tradition, you're not baptized into a church, you're baptized just as a Christian. It's not a church that you're getting baptized into. So, okay, but anyway.
Because we're evangelical / Baptist, Protestant. Huh? That's the Protestant view, basically. If you got baptized in the name of Jesus or the Trinity, then it's
in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Yes, then your baptism is valid. So yeah, it doesn't. You could go to a number of different churches with that baptism, and it would be considered valid. Okay, so anyway, living in that house for a number of years, I had a number of spooky experiences, but I never really took it too seriously until it became completely unmanageable. So I had one night a dream where I was walking down the sidewalk and a large black figure was walking past me. And I just had this recognition of, wait a minute, that's not right. That person's not, or whoever this isn't supposed to be here, And I went up to them and confronted them in my dream. I ran up and was like, what are you doing here? And at that moment, I woke up and there was this large black mass over me that was attacking me. And I somehow shot up, I don't know how, from my back. And I was not in good shape at this time either. So I don't know how it happened, but I ended up in this crouching stance. And this thing shot across the room and I could see it. And it had this, I would say, demonic or elemental kind of appearance. There were horns at the top that were kind of I don't know, animal horns. And it was vaporous. I could see through it, but the eyes were a different color than everything else. Everything was black, but the eyes had this orange kind of color almost. And it was just there. And I was looking at this thing, and it took a couple minutes for it to kind of fade out of view. And after that point, every single night until I left that house, I dealt with some kind of attack from that thing. And so it was a couple months. I actually ended up moving out, thank God. And the attack stopped once I moved out. So I don't know if it was attached to that area. I think it might have been because I'd had so many different experiences in that house. The first night I moved into it, I had my blankets pulled off of me. And this, I'd had like, unusual experiences before, so I wasn't too frightened of it. But yeah, it really came to a head like the last year of living there. So I was desperate, I would say. I had this kind of desperation. And my prayers, like I did cry out to God and I cried out to Jesus to like, rescue me or save me or stop this. But like, it still kept happening. So I decided to go into studying or trying to find ways to protect myself spiritually. And that's how I got into, I would say, very seriously the occult as an adult. I was about 25 at that time. So I started getting protective crystals and like making protective sigils and that kind of thing, and doing rituals, learning banishing rituals, learning, all kinds of different things to do. And then at the same time, I started like, thinking, well, I have this spiritual affinity, or, I'm going to get into, being a reader. I just kind of decided at that point to commit myself fully to, like, I guess, a occult path. I don't know how else to describe it, but a lot of it was motivated by that experience because it was so terrifying and draining. And I also ended up getting sick after that experience happened. I developed a disease that I have to this day. So, yeah, not good. So I think, people go into the occult for a lot of different reasons, but a lot of mine was motivated by a desire to just stop these horrible things from happening. Like I wanted to not have to deal with it. I wanted to know how to protect myself if I were to come across something like that again.
I'm curious if you've heard of this or you've experienced this, but the spiritualist girlfriend that I was dating, the one that I brought to the psychic, one of the things she shared with me was she was having a reoccurring dream of these two demons trying to enter her, and she had it was reoccurring, so it happened multiple times. But it wasn't until one time in her dream she called out Jesus. That's all it was. She goes, Jesus. And then the demons left, and then she no longer had those dreams anymore. That was it. And then that triggered this inspiration inside of her to start looking into Christianity. She never even considered it, but it was like this continuous attack of these two demons. And then eventually she just had this instinct to call out the name of Christ, and then it was done. I don't know if you've heard of that, or if it's common, or or you've experienced it.
Well, I have heard of that. I have heard of people having experiences like that where they're going through some kind of attack and it stopped because they call out to Jesus. I don't know. Like for me, it didn't work at the time, but I think at the time, I mean, how I see it in my mind's eye now, I had like turned away from God completely. I had left my faith. I had been very wicked. And I do think it was kind of, I don't know. I feel like God meets us, as far as we're willing to meet him as well, And at that time, I was not willing to meet him. I guess I had to go through more hell. I don't know. I don't know. And I don't, when I look back now at my life and what I've experienced and what I got sucked into, like, it's, I don't know. I also think maybe it had to happen for a reason. Like something good is going to come out of it. Like, and the fact that I do have this testimony is a witness to something that's real. And I can maybe, I don't know. We all have a testimony, and there's a reason for it. So I think maybe that's part of it. Like I was equipped for this. I don't know. I do feel like I got knowledge that I can use in God's kingdom, you know, to serve him. So that I feel like, okay, yeah, because I feel okay about what's happened. Like I do have shame though about it too. Sometimes that does come up where I'm like, I just get convicted about like how deceived I was, or like how evil what I was involved in is. It just hits me every now and then where I'm like, that was evil, you know, and it can be really humbling, honestly.
Okay, so with that, I'm going to kind of tie it together to a question that Shannon gave earlier. A long time ago, she said something about, do we think social media is involved? The reason why I bring that up is because in my career, not really so much so now that I live on the East Coast and I work for an East Coast large technology company. But when on the West Coast, we would do all these things called like mindfulness. We would do like these mindfulness seminars, be mindful. They made like a spiritualist room so people can do spiritualist things. And so we kind of see this weird techno religion that seems to be, you know, playing in with each other. Like, and meanwhile, like anything that's Christian is bad. No, you're not allowed to believe in God as an atheist, but as an atheist, you're allowed to believe in demons. Like, they don't see how those two are tied together, you know. So it's like, to me, um, when we go forth, right? When we go forward, in at least in our modern world, I have a tendency of seeing the interaction with technology, right, being interconnected, whether it be spiritually or physically. It's going to be harder and harder to parse from this, because like you might get entrapped maybe with dream interactions, you might get entrapped with astral projection, you might get entrapped with technology feeding you the dopamines and the hits that you need. So I guess when you say you have a special experience because you know how gross it is, do you see a translation on all the other avenues that the devil is lying to us? You know what I mean? Like, do you see, like, so do you think you can maybe apply that? Like, hey, somebody is addicted to technology, and you can maybe relate that to spiritualism or something like that. Or, I mean, do you see yourself expanding beyond um, your immediate experience? You know what I mean? And maybe
Yeah, of
apply,
course. And you
because I
know,
think,
it's not as if I haven't been affected by technology either. Of course I have, you
yeah.
know. It's been a part of my reality, you know. Honestly, I think technology at the time that I was demonically attacked in the way I was I was getting a lot of negative energy sent my way online, like
Mm,
a lot, for a couple of years at that point. It was compounding, and it was twisting me. Like I was becoming very twisted in my own spirit. Um, I see how this happens to other people as well. Like I would, I mean, from that I mean, there's many ways that and traps that are set. Like what I get sucked into isn't what somebody else with, you know, or what somebody else might. But I mean, it's the same road to hell, you know.
yeah, that's it. Interesting because a little bit about my experience.
Mm-hmm.
I I never had a problem with drugs or alcohol, or even an obsession with sports. I've been really lucky for some reason. Like my whole life has been pretty much like whatever the whole world likes to do, I immediately question it. It can't be good.
Hmm.
You know, like everybody's drinking, can't be good. Everybody's doing it, right? So I already have this like immediate aversion to this, and so I I find myself like thanking my dad because I explained how my dad got bought into the whole spiritualist thing, right? But my dad was also an alcoholic, and he struggled with it on and off. It wasn't like a constant thing, but it really did ruin his life, and that really that turned out to my benefit because I saw him go from normal weight to overweight, back to normal weight, get a DUI, so on and so forth, struggle with his career, right, and then he ends up dying early. I mean, he died before the age of 65. He couldn't even reach retirement. Um, and so when I saw his life, the way he lived, I immediately was like, man, everything he was aspiring for, I got to be careful because I know there's an addictive personality, whether no matter what the lie is, right? So all these traps are being set to try to trick me into being addicted into something. And so it's not it's not and I would almost argue you can even do this being Christian. Like you can become so overly Christian, if you will. You become a Bible thumper to the point where you're turning people away from God, and you're actually hurting the gospel message that we're supposed to be selling to come out of the world, to come out of Babylon, kind of thing. And so I guess my question for you is like, when you say you have all these traps, do you see yourself cycle through them, or did you finally realize, oh, there's a whole bunch of traps, and you shut a bunch of them out? You know what I mean? Like, was there like a happy medium? Like, did you catch a bunch of those traps and then eventually stop, or did you have a big, like, because it sounds like the occult was that big one for you. You know what I mean?
Well,
I,
I don't know. I mean, to a certain
I don't
degree,
know that. I don't know either.
it's definitely one that people are fascinated by.
I see.
And it's probably one of the ones I'm more comfortable talking about.
Okay, that's
Well,
fair.
because there's other things that I might be less comfortable talking about because it may be more personal or that kind of thing.
No.
Not that this isn't personal, but I don't know. I definitely went through a lot of different cycles of, I guess, deception and like traps being set. I would say like the year before I kind of had my come to Jesus moment, I did kind of had a wake up call about social media. Ended up deleting Twitter. That was pretty big. Definitely. Yeah, there's been a number of times. I think things kind of ended at different times, I guess. But yeah, it's so much easier to see the truth when you let the Holy Spirit work in your life instead of being in resistance. It's much easier to not be deceived when you just know the truth. I mean, things become very clear that weren't, you see just what's going on much better. I don't know exactly how to like even like begin. Yeah, a lot of things just became clear once I surrendered.
Yeah.
It's like,
There's
of myself, like I could only do so much work. I did a lot of work on myself, like prior to like actually coming back to Christ. Like I did so much self-reflection work, and it was very vain because it only could go so far.
yeah. You mentioned the Episcopal Church, which I think is great.
I never was a member of that church. I became kind of like a, what are they called? Priester kind of Christian. I only went on Christmas and Easter for like certain.
Yeah. The Catholic holidays.
Yeah.
That's what they are. That's what they are. But so it's interesting you say that because I am obviously I am a Sabbath keeper. I'm a Seventh-day Adventist, but I also go to a Sunday church that used to be Anglican. Used to be. So they were a former Anglican church that became non-denominational. They split from the Anglican church because essentially there's a lot of beliefs in the Anglican, like Episcopal. There's really no difference between the two. It was a political split. And the pastor, he wrote a book on exactly what you just described about obedience. Like you can't just come into obedience and then things will start to become apparent. It's like, no, you don't get the explanation. I don't owe you an explanation. Just do what I tell you, and then then God will bring you that. And are you? Because I experienced that. He wrote a whole book. The Anglican church guy became non-denominational, so his whole church experienced that, right? So, is that what you're saying? You're saying like you just had to like obey, like submit, like, you know what, I really am nothing, and then it started to make sense to you. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. Yeah. Awareness or understanding comes once you submit and obey, or just trust and obey, I guess, is another way of putting it. Like, because everything will become clear then. It's like the disobedience is the separation. This disobedience puts that veil between you and the truth.
Sounds kind of Adventisty. So let's see. We got a question. Let's see. What in the heck?
I know Yoda wanted me to talk about my leprechaun experience.
Yeah, I missed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see. Wait. That was one too, but let me get the other one first. Tell us about that one.
Okay. Yeah, I told my viewers about this once. So this was when I was first starting to learn how to read tarot. And I was playing with my cards on, like, I was sitting on the side of my bed and I did like a quick spread next to me. And I, read the cards, like, or looked at them, kind of studied them a bit, and then put them away. And I got up and I went to my closet, and then in my mind's eye, I looked to where I had just been sitting, and I saw myself reading the cards, and next to me was a little leprechaun type figure with his little feet dangling over the edge of my bed, and he was looking at the cards with me. And then, okay, that doesn't even then I had the scrambling happen. So this has happened to me multiple times when I've seen a spirit and it didn't want to be seen. It will scramble my vision a little bit. Like I'll get this kind of like buzzing or scrambling in my eyes or something. Like it doesn't happen every time I see a spirit, because some of them don't, but I've noticed sometimes, especially with those ones, like they think we don't, they don't want to be that, they don't want us to know that they're there. At least that's how I perceive it now. At the time I was just like, oh, cool, leprechaun, should have been, yeah. I don't know. I don't know. I was just fascinated by the darkness, I guess.
Luck of the Irish, I suppose.
Yeah, I am Irish, so that probably has a lot to do with it too. They're known for being psychic a lot of the time.
full of spirits.
Well, I mean, that's part of it. I mean, I don't have a drinking problem like that, but I don't know. There's a lot of mythology about it, so I don't want to get into that tonight.
Yeah. There was a question I think would be good for, I bet you Kaline can answer it. My friend Timothy thinks he doesn't agree with us. So how would you answer that?
Where was Jonah when he prayed? Wasn't he in the belly of the fish?
I think, yeah, that's what I think. I think he was dying and he cried out to God as he died.
Yeah.
Is he Orthodox? Is that
No,
whoever that was?
He's like a, I'm not sure. He's like a evangelical sort of, you know.
But that's an Orthodox.
Wesleyan.
That's what the
He's a
Orthodox.
Wesleyan. He's a Wesleyan.
Okay,
But
that's
he's
a weird. Almost, that's totally an Eastern Orthodox position that Jonah died, that he was actually dead.
Oh, interesting.
You know.
I actually think that's a fine reading because
That's fine, but it means nothing.
But yeah, you could read it either way, in my view, regarding his prayer. I don't think it shows that he prayed after he died. I think he prayed as he was dying. If you want to take the view that he died, that's fine with me. That's my view. I don't.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty clear It's pretty clear he's a little over dramatic. I mean, like clearly Jonah was dramatic the whole time, except for when he was dying. like, oh, I'm dying. I'm so dead. Like nobody ever acts dramatic like that. Jonah was totally like, no, I'm not gonna do it. But no, he was being literal that time. He wasn't being dramatic.
He did.
Yeah, where's Jonah? He's dead. That's my answer. He's not alive. Waiting for the resurrection. That's our view. We don't think dead people are alive. I'm not sure how exactly Terri thinks about it, but the Adventist view is that dead people are dead.
So I don't believe, I guess, in, I mean, I don't know. We can get into that. I don't believe the saints ever die. Maybe rest is maybe a better place of putting it. But we have eternal life. So we might just be in like a hibernation or something.
So the Eastern Orthodox view is that you're put in a holding place. So then if you do take that view, the question is, are you conscious or not? Like, it really doesn't matter whether you're in a holding place. Obviously you're stamped either for heaven or not, right? So the question is, are you conscious during that period? And I would argue I never cared. Like, in the past, whatever, because it's above my pay grade. But now, given the circumstance, the way the way the world is operating, no, not at all. You're dead. You're dead. You're waiting for resurrection. The dead's got no business being conscious to interact with us. That's how I see it. There's literally nothing to glorify God in that essence. It's only confusion at that point.
If I could share a personal story on that. It wasn't too long after my first husband had died that I think I had maybe just one or two dreams where he appeared. And at that time, he was the one that was managing all of the household finances, and he had all the passwords and all the documents. And when he passed away unexpectedly, I didn't know a single password to anything. It was like the world came to a pause. And I needed to get into laptops. I needed to get into phones. It was a challenge. And I'm like, man, I don't know any of the passwords. I had a dream where he appeared and he was all smiling and laughing the way he normally would. And in the dream, I knew according to the Seventh-day Adventist position, I knew that wasn't him, but I was so relieved to see him, to ask him for the passwords, and he never revealed that in the dream, but there was a moment where I realized that I was in some territory that wasn't really safe. And I felt compelled to actually say, in the name of Jesus, get thee behind me. And suddenly the smile that was there suddenly went serious. And he stopped smiling and he turned around and walked away. And I knew that I was messing with something that I shouldn't have been. So it's very interesting how spiritualism, state of the dead, all of these things, it leads to deception. And that's why I'm particularly careful with this kind of topic.
No, maybe I'm misremembering. Everybody's watching husband wife interacting here. Maybe I'm misremembering, but I think you're being gentle there. The way I recall is that it
Okay.
wasn't that his smile didn't become serious. I thought you said his smile became evil. Maybe that's the
Sure.
way I processed because
Well,
it matters.
I became afraid because, it was almost like a montage of memories, and I was just blissfully like just enjoying the moment because of course I missed him. And then there was a moment where I realized that this needed to stop. And so I just called on the name of Jesus, and his face suddenly wasn't that sweet, loving person anymore. It became a scary feeling, a moment.
Mm, mm,
And
mm.
then he turned around and walked away, which I believe that that's what God does. His evil can't stay in his presence, which is what I called on. So you're right. It was an evil facial expression. It was scary.
Wow.
He was
Yeah.
young. He was
Yeah.
real young too.
I told Terry my best friend died like a little over a year ago, unexpectedly. And for like a month, I would wake up hearing his voice as clear as a bell. His voice like waking me up. And I don't believe that was him, obviously. It was I actually don't even know. I don't necessarily even think it's demonic. I actually kind of lean that was just trauma of loss. So if you guys want to ask any questions before we close it down, send them in now. So I think I caught all the ones that we had from during the show. I think pretty much. Or there was one, Terry, somebody, I think Yoda asked, who led you back to Jesus?
Well, I mean, it's a tough thing to say. Anyone led me back exactly. For one, it was kind of just my own understanding of things. Like I said, I saw that there was a battle between good and evil happening, and I couldn't ignore it anymore. And I had to get right. So it was kind of just a personal conviction. I mean, 2020 was a pretty tough year on a lot of people. And a lot of people, I think, went through spiritual transformations at the time. I was not alone in that, or they, became further deceived. But I saw good and evil playing out very clearly. I did have some interesting visions I saw of different things. I came across people that were, messengers, if you want to say. I definitely saw evil in people and in myself as well. So it became very serious to me. So I can't say that, it was that, but I did in 2021. Yeah, I am getting to that Yoda. Yoda knows, but he wants me to share this. I did befriend an older woman that I'd met at a coffee shop in my neighborhood. I'd seen her about for years, like I periodically, but I struck up a friendship with her, and she invited me to her church, and that's how I got it back into going to church. She just ended up dragging me into the church that I guess I was meant for. And it's interesting. I used to walk past the same church like years prior, And I always would notice it because it had the same address, or it had the same like numbers as my address at the time. I've since moved, but yeah, it was I don't know, there were all these like synchronicities and things that were happening, and then I felt the Holy Spirit moving in the church, and I was just like, yeah, I'm supposed to be here. So my friend Lavinia was the one who drugged me into church. You know,
And you're, and
invite
that's
people to church, y'all. You never know.
that's your American Baptist church.
Yes.
I'm a fan of. I mean, I have my friends at American Baptist. They're pretty based. Okay, here's an interesting question. It's going to get kind of political a little bit, maybe, but
Okay.
I think it's a hard one. I'm curious what Kaline and Matt will say. I'll just say, I guess I'll let you guys answer, and then I'll tell you what I think. But let's see. He asks, Tar Baby Yoda asks, are the LGBTQ STD community demon possessed? Like, what should we say about that? I think he means the whole woke crowd thing. How should we think about that? And
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a natural. I think it's a natural progression from desecrating the Sabbath. Hear me out. The Sabbath is you work. It's the Sabbath means week. If everybody doesn't know this, the Sabbath means a week in which a day you see. So on the 6 days, God created the universe. We're told to do good work like God, and then we're told to rest and cease like God. So we're made in His image. We follow this pattern, and we're called to subdue the earth and to multiply. That's literally in the beginning in Genesis. So in the 1960s, you actually see this is a global effect of World War II. You actually see in the 1960s, even the Sunday Sabbatarianism was let go. All the blue laws were ignored, blah, 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 blah. Consumerism took over, just like Terry was talking about. Consumerism became the predominant reason why Sunday Sabbatarianism's gone. So you can actually still do blue laws, but they refuse not to because they lose consumerist revenue, right? So that's the justification right now. So you see this, you see the Sabbath being defiled, which was our original decree. So God said, subdue the earth. You subdue the earth by doing good work for 6 days and resting on the seventh, and to multiply, just like God multiplied. He created us and told us to multiply. So there's an original pre-sin decree, and so the LGBTQ, ABC, XYZ, in my opinion, completely aligns with the full desecration of the original intent pre-sin. Like you can't multiply if you got this going on. You can't multiply if you got that going on. You can't multiply if people are taking hormones and destroying the reproductive systems. Like you're literally watching the population decline in all these modern societies where Christianity was prevalent. So that's yeah. I actually see it. It's not demonic. It's a satanic plan to destroy the very decree that was set before the fall of man. That's how I see it.
And to destroy the image of God. So I'll tie it to that.
It's actually quite profound in my view, because when you look back at the beginning before the fall, there's the told to subdue the earth, so like you said, and then rest like God did as an example, and then He also gives marriage. It seems interesting that the decline of marriage and proper relationships as designed to make beautiful white babies and black babies and yellow babies. That's a joke to the audience. All babies, all colored babies. And because Jesus loves the little children, all the little children of the world, not just some of them.
My wife, she's black.
What do you think, Terry? What do you make of that?
Of Yoda's question about if they're demon possessed. I don't know if they're possessed, oppressed maybe is maybe a better term, because there's a difference between spiritual oppression and possession. Some of them are possessed. I think when you're getting into like the trans thing, you're definitely dealing with some very serious possession because the person is being driven to completely destroy their own form. I think that yeah, it's they're under like influence of there's a spirit leading them that's evil. I don't know how, like, how do I put this? I think that a lot of the time with that, the underlying sin is not the behavior that they're engaging in. It's something more akin to pride or wrath or anger, which twists them into engaging into behavior that is unhealthy and unnatural for them. Oh my goodness.
If you don't mind, I do want to kind of tie that to the mark of the beast. I actually have a personal view that the transgender movement, when I say it's satanic, I really actually mean like it's part of the plan, because in order to become transhuman, in order for us to replace the Holy Spirit by being interconnected, by replacing the need for God by performing technology miracles, this is how I view it. You need to have this idea that I can be trans whatever I want, because I can then manifest whatever reality I want through the realm of technology. We're on the borderline of doing this. And so breaking down the barriers between man and female, being transgender, the next thing is trans species, trans race, trans human. I'm no longer human. And that's what Kaline was saying. You destroy the image of God when I can now create man in man's image instead of being true to what God has always intended.
Yes.
Okay, let's thank you guys for coming to the audience. Thank you for coming. Kaline, Matt,
What a thing to, what a discussion to end on.
Well, I want to give you each like 2 minutes to say whatever you want to say. And thank you so much for coming. It's great to have you guys all here. It was a great discussion. To the audience, I appreciate everybody. Make sure you subscribe to everybody's channel. I will put it in the link. I'll put it in the description after it's done. I did put it earlier in. If you guys want to put it in again right now, you can in the chat. So let's do Kaline, Matt, and then Terri, and then I'll close it up. Thank you.
Well, thanks everyone. It was really good to be here tonight. I hope we had a fun discussion and we learned a lot. For my closing thought, the story about the demoniac, it's really touching because the night before, Jesus was on a stormy sea and he went through so much just to get to that shoreline to rescue this man who needed so much help. And so I believe God will do what he can to meet us where we are, to save us. And when Jesus and the disciples got onto the shore, the demoniac, he charged at this group, and the disciples fled. We might be abandoned by friends and family in our darkest time, but Jesus remained, and Jesus helped him and met him where he was. And then he became a missionary for that very city, so that when Jesus came back, many were converted. And so that story really touches me, and it tells me that while we're alive, there's hope, and there might come a point where you go too far, but at least that story gives us hope. So I just wanted to share that. And thanks, everybody.
Amen. Thank you.
I'm gonna ruin her awesome story by being goofy, because men can't keep things serious. Remember, if you think people go to hell when they die, then they're in hell longer than Satan. Think about that. Who deserves to be in hell longer? Us or Satan? That's how I'll leave it at that.
Thanks, man.
Well, I thank you all for your questions and just actually, you know, helping me delve deeper into understanding, I think, you know, what I've been through. And hopefully it will, you know, help others understand as well what maybe they're going through or someone they know is going through. And just to some of the people in my chat, the reason that this reasonable panel or this panel is so reasonable is because it's not actually at my channel, guys. It's a restream. I'm restreaming Jamie's channel. So go and subscribe to him.
Thanks. All right. Well, God bless you all, and I'll see you next time. Yeah, make sure to check out everybody's channel. It's in there. And I will see you next time.